you.
Wonderful. Well, welcome, ladies. Today we have the good fortune of having someone who really does know the in and outs of federal employment, and we're thrilled to have her once again with us today. It's Bridget Bear. Bridget, it's all yours.
Hello, ladies. It is wonderful to get to spend some quality time with you. Um, my name, as she mentioned, is Bridget Bear. I work at the Department of Veterans Affairs, and I am actually the Regional Telehealth and Connected Care Manager. In that role, I take care of 5 full states. I take care of 4 baby parts of states, and I have a staff of direct reports of 10 and indirect reports, meaning I'm part of their supervisor of over 100, and we have over 100 sites of care. And we are expanding rapidly, which we weren't planning for until a little thing called COVID-19 came by. And we needed to figure out a way to make sure we kept taking care of our veterans while we kept them safe. So we have been just crazy busy. But I believe very strongly that the federal government is a wonderful place to work. But I also instinctively understand, being a hiring official myself, that it's hard to figure out. It's a bit of a conundrum. And Gloria and I had chatted, and we really both agreed that helping you folks understand what a home in the federal government would look like, what you could expect in the hiring and the application process, might make more individuals more comfortable considering a career in the federal government. I can tell you that I've been with the VA for 28 years. I started as a GS, which you'll know about in a few slides, 5, and I am now a GS 14 manager. So I grew in this organization, but also as a federal employee. I started at the very, very bottom and was able, with having options and opportunities, to work my way up.
Me
I want
too.
to, I want to find the next group of people who can actually get that opportunity as well. So are you guys ready to do this journey and do this thing? There's 16.
Woohoo!
Good
Yes.
job. You gotta give me some love here because it is 4. I got up at 4 a.m. and I'm in the office at 5. So I'm gonna need some support to get through, just like you guys are. It's been a long day for us all. So let's talk about what the federal government quickly is and is not. The federal government is not the state of Colorado. It is not the state of Utah. It is not the state of Pennsylvania. Those are state governments. The federal government is that thing that Congress manages. It is across the country. There are international areas if you're working at Department of State. There are over 75 different agencies of different sizes. So if you say, well, you're just going to talk about medicine, I don't do medicine. In this area, there's the Forest Service, there's Department of Transportation, there is actually National Science and Technology. Do you know, just as a little hint, that you have 3 Nobel Prize winners living in Boulder? You do. And they work for the federal government. So there are many, many, many options of agencies and little baby elements of agencies that different people can work for. Additionally, if you add the Department of Defense, which is a federal agency, the federal government is the largest employer in the United States. There is a lot of different options for federal jobs, and you can start at the bottom. You may come in as a physician. You could cut, or anything in the middle. So what are some of the benefits of working for this really big organization? Well, number one, it's safer than a private sector job quite often. When you get in and you've gone through your probationary time and you're functioning at a high level, we don't like to lose our people that are really talented and really committed. So we will very often, if an organization downsizes, you're going to be the first in line as a federal employee for new opportunities. If you look at the regular benefits that you think about, other than safety and security, you're going to be looking at the fact the federal government partners with you for a really great health insurance plan. And the reality is that's plans. I can tell you in Colorado, when I did open season, I had over 65 healthcare plans to choose from. Some would have been appropriate if I had had a family that was younger. Some were more appropriate with a retired husband, which I have. You are eligible to apply in the beginning of your career and intermittently throughout for life insurance, paid leave, annual and sick, retirement. After year 3, you're vested in the government and you're putting retirement money away. The government matches you up to 5% of what you put in. Free money. Educational benefits. Some people find that they want to expand and develop in their careers. If that job or that skill set is needed in the government, often, providing we have the funding, we'll pay for your school. We're delighted to do that. The federal government actually got my 2 master's degrees paid for because they needed a hospital administrator, and they paid for my MBA and they paid for my healthcare administration. Transit benefits. In Colorado, our goal is to keep people off the road. So many employers in the federal government will actually help to pay up to $275 a month for you to take mass transit. That is not paying for your car. And then some locations that are larger will actually have childcare on site. So if you're a working mom, that may be something that you all want to look into as you're talking to organizations. There are some challenges. It's a tiered system. What that means is that each element of a job requires certain things, and they don't play about you not having them. So you need to be exceptionally mindful that and we'll talk about this in a bit, as you're writing your resume, and as you're talking or writing your cover letter, talking in your interview, you want to make sure you understand what they're looking for and that you meet that need. The second thing, agencies can be a little bit slow to adopt and adapt, meaning that people get frustrated with the pace of government. Sometimes they call it glacial. The reality is, we've seen during COVID, that doesn't have to be that way. Also remember, we are covered, not just VA, but many government agencies have very, very set requirements and regulations. And we have offices of Inspector General for every agency that goes out looking to assure that we are doing what we should do. The last thing is, the government is a little bit more challenging than some other organizations to get into. The reason is that there are a lot of jobs, but a lot of those jobs have some pretty specific requirements. So we're going to give you some hints, not only on how you go through the toolkit, but what successful people do. Is there really a place for me if I'm not a doctor, or I'm not an MBA, or I'm not an engineer? I don't have a fancy degree. I may have a couple community college courses. I may not have any. The answer is absolutely yes. What you need to know, and I'll share my story very briefly, is that I loved animals, and they had a need for an animal caretaker. And I got the job. I was not a veteran. I did not have preference, but no one in that area had the skill set that I did for the job that was needed. And I managed to come up through the agency after that. I do not clean rat poop anymore. I did initially. I was given a lot of opportunities. So let's talk a little bit about some terms you kind of need to know, because if you've been around the government, you know, we like to chatter in lingo, and that's very off-putting. So a job series or an occupational group is going to tell you, what are you going to do in your job? What is it going to pay you? And basically, how can you find out more information? There are actually guidelines, and we're going to talk about this, that you can go read everything you've ever wanted to know about a job series or an occupational group that you might be interested in applying for. It'll tell you, do you stand? Do you sit? Do you travel? You're going to get all that information in one place. Is there a possibility to move up in the future? Some job areas may have it, some may not. A general schedule is lovingly called a GS, and these are most white collar positions. A white collar position could be a secretary, a file clerk. It can be a manager. I am a GS employee. So there is a vast number of GS type positions. While a wage grade or a WG are those individuals in craft, trade, or labor occupations such as air conditioner and HVAC mechanic, plumber, carpenter. Those are the types of individuals that you will often hear called WGs. Please be mindful, a WG gets paid very well, and you can go into a supervisory position as a WG. You can be a lead carpenter. Senior executive service, these are the men and the women who are appointed by the president. They serve for the pleasure of the president. They are the major link between the highest level and the general workforce. I have left here, and I do want you to take these slides and go away with them. You will notice that there is a PDF. We're going to see, let's do an experiment early on, and let's see if my PDFs will open in Zoom. It seems like it's happy about it. Go Zoom. Now, I don't know if I can get back easily, but we're going to try. So this is something that you will see in the Office of Personnel Management. They actually will tell you, what is a job series? What is a general schedule? We don't understand.
Hey,
There are
Greg,
places.
I don't
Yep,
know that your slide, I'm not sure that your PDF is showing. What I recommend is that you stop sharing this presentation and reshare the PDF screen that you opened.
okay, I tried to actually open this within the PDF or within the slide deck. Am I going to have that like problem if we go to the internet?
Yes, you're going to
Okay,
have.
thanks for the
stop sharing.
warning.
Yep.
That's going to be super important because we are going to try and get to USA Jobs and OPM. So I'm going to let you folks go ahead. We're going to move on. You folks can take a peek at this PDF, okay? And open it at your leisure. Now I have to see if I can possibly.
And I do have, ladies, this is Gloria. I
Go ahead.
do have the copy of this, and I can send this after the meeting.
Stop share very quickly. Get back into PowerPoint.
Or instead of PowerPoint, open the internet
And
where it had the PDF or where it had USA Jobs.
not yet. Are you seeing USA Jobs? Differences in the hiring process?
No, we are not.
Oh, bad driver I am. I apologize. Okay, escape. And we are going to we'll get back on track, ladies. I do apologize. As I was telling them, we are teams people in the government.
I think you need to reshare your screen.
Yeah, I sure do. Share screen. Yay. Whiteboard. Give me 1 second. There we go. Come on. There you go, friend. And let's get you into full screen. So, differences in the hiring process between we and the federal government and a private employer. One is our bulletin board, our jobs do not get announced as a rule in the paper. They do not, as a rule, get often announced first in LinkedIn or other things, but they will occasionally show up if we're having trouble hiring or we know that it's going to be a difficult series. The place you're going to want to go is USA Jobs. Friendly note, you will never pay to use any federal government hiring or HR process. So if you are on a site and they say, well, give us your credit card and we'll help you find it, you are not in a .gov site. I want to make that clear from the start. Another difference is that panel interviewing and multiple interviews are normal. Nowadays, they may or may not be virtual. It often takes a long time for you to hear anything. Crickets are the animal of preference when it comes to doing HR, unless we're in a position where we've got to get it filled quickly. The final thing to remember is who your allegiance and alliance truly lies with. You are not particularly my employee if I hire you. You work for the taxpayers and you hold allegiance first and foremost to the Constitution. When you are hired, you raise your hand and you actually do take an oath to the Constitution of the United States to uphold and defend. I know that in politics these days, there's a lot of people talking about who belongs and who's responsible for what, but government employees across the board acknowledge that they understand that they are here to uphold the Constitution, and they truly do serve at the pleasure of the taxpayer. And if you wind up with a manager who says anything differently, send them to me. So let's talk a little bit about USA Jobs. USA Jobs is the federal government's job board. Job notification, you do everything electronically through USA Jobs. USA Jobs is searchable. So if you put your resume into USA Jobs and it can help you generate a resume, it's a pretty cool, fun tool. If you place your resume into USA Jobs and you click searchable, I can go look for you. Not you as an individual, but a person with skill sets that I need who may be like you. So it's important that you have that resume in place. Searches, you can and you should save while in your job hunt. And when you're already employed, you should save some searches for your next job. It will allow USA Jobs to automatically notify you when a job comes open. Please be aware that in some popular job areas, it may have a note on the announcement saying, we are going to close this job offer after the first 50 or 100 or 200 applications are received. So you don't want to always be going, well, I'll look at it on Saturday. I got some free time, because you may actually miss jobs that might be perfect for you to apply for. Finally, you need to make sure that when we get into USA Jobs, if you choose to use words, you're making them both singular and adding those S's and ES's. Those constitute different job searches. And that will allow you to get the full scope of jobs that are open in, for instance, an administrative officer. Finally, second to finally, consider internships, externships, volunteer, and where appropriate, student opportunities to get your foot in the door. You might make a little bit less initially, but it does count as resume service. And if you do choose to have a career with the federal government, it also counts towards retirement hours. So it's a really good way to get your feet wet. And if you choose to go onward, actually get credit for work and get to retire a little earlier. A final thing I will share with you, you should be looking at the Office of Personnel Management site while you're on the hunt. And I'm going to explain why in a little bit. Because we have to do a whole lot of flipping around, I'm going to run the slide deck and then we're going to hop into USA Jobs. Is that okay with everybody?
Sounds good.
Yes.
Okay, ladies, thank you. And finally, don't be frightened or intimidated of USA Jobs or of the Office of Personnel Management. They're here to be tools for you. So I've talked about this mythical Office of Personnel Management. While USA Jobs is our job board, the Office of Personnel Management is our main human resource office. This site is going to be able to tell you a lot about federal government employment. So you can A, decide if it's right for you, B, if you really don't know anything about series and jobs that might be available, you can read up on them. You'll find out about benefits. You'll find out about what jobs require and expect you to do, what you need to be able to bring into the party through skill sets and education, and how far can I go in this job? So let's talk about an administrative officer. It's kind of a generic, general, not a secretary job. An administrative officer, which is series 0341, is basically an individual who is a jack of all trades in a office or not really. You can have administrative officers working with engineers and plumbers, but you're the jack of all trades. You know about HR, you know about budget, you know about contracting, you know about just all of the day-to-day things. Sometimes you're under a computer trying to get wires to work. That is a very generalist series. It could start as low as a GS6 and go all the way up to a GS15, which is the highest GS grade that is available. You are going to tap out as a GS employee at GS15, step 10. You have to be here for about 1 million years if you're working your way up. What steps are ways that you can regularly get upgrades in your salary and in your obviously benefits as you go through. Steps 1, 2, and 3 are provided as yearly increases at any grade. After that, you go to a 3-year cycle. So you can do the math. If you never leave, let's say a GS9, and you want to get to a GS9 step 10, you're going to be there a while. Occasionally, we do have the capacity as managers to recommend a step increase. Often that is when individuals are considering leaving the government and we want to try and match the money they're going to get in their hand. Any questions? Okay, I'm going to keep rolling on. So let's talk about a plan of attack. We have a young lady, her name is Crystal. Crystal is 30 years old. She's a single mom, has her high school diploma, or it could be a GED, and 12 hours of business credits in a community college. She wants to find a full-time job within her community that works Monday to Friday, 8 to 4:30. She lives in Glendale. She does not own a car. She has never worked for the federal government, and she has no idea if there are roles for her that she can do and will meet her needs. Let's see what we're going to do with Crystal. First of all, if Crystal walked into my office tomorrow, I would say, I hope you've done some prep work. And anytime you apply for any job, whether it be in federal, private, or not-for-profit sectors, you got some prep work to do if you're going to be competitive. So I want Crystal to be thinking about things. What has she done? What is her skills? What's important to her? What is she willing to trade off? If she has a resume, I'm going to recommend she update it. And she be prepared if there are gaps. A lot of us have gaps in our resumes. Gaps are not a bad thing. Being sheepish or not telling a complete truth, that can be a little bit more challenging with your gaps. Just own them. Life happens. If you haven't already, Crystal, you're going to go set up a USA Jobs account. If you don't have a resume, USA Jobs will actually coach you through a resume builder. And if you do have a resume, you can add it as an attachment and name it resume of this date, Crystal resume this date. I want you to go to your OPM website and I want you to read the FAQs for job seekers, and I'll show you how to get there. Read them all because it's going to really give you a good overview of what the hiring process is going to be. And it will give you confidence in being able to go in and go through that process. Then And here's where you actually do see this. In the search box at the top left of the homepage, when you've done this, let's say you want to be give me a job, guys. Anybody, shout it out.
Construction.
Let's say you want to be a construction technician, engineer, supervisor. What do you want to do? You want to shoot big and go supervisor?
Yes.
Type it in, spell it correctly, and hit enter. What OPM is going to, what OPM is going to do is it's going to give you back a Boolean search. And near the top of that search is actually going to be what we call a series guide. And a series guide is going to tell you the series that a construction engineer would be, other series like a construction engineer. You're going to be able to go down and you're going to see what series aren't like a construction engineer, but are kind of like it. And you're going to get all these numbers and you're going to write those numbers down on a sticky. And then you're going to read the rest of the guide for construction engineer or construction supervisor. And it's going to tell you what you need to be able to do. Do you need to have a journeyman's license to do it? At what level is a journeyman's license required? Are you going to be sitting or standing? Are you going to be doing a lot of traveling? It's going to answer a lot of the questions that you would have, so that as Crystal is thinking about her plan of attack, she started to gain information. She feels a lot more confident. And by the way, you're going to head back to those guides if you want to do better than a lot of people in the next step. Keep those guides in mind, okay? Or descriptions. Now, Crystal's gained up some information related to the job she's interested in. She's found some series codes that might work well for her. She's kind of gone through some reflection and she knows what she wants to do, where she wants to do it, and if there are any things that she is absolutely not game for. International travel may not be game for it with a smaller child. So we now go ahead and we minimize OPM. Remember, I told you, you might need to come back to it. And you're going to go to usajobs.gov. And all of these are physically in this document as a reference. Remember, the account should never be paid. It should be free. Hopefully you've gone ahead, or Crystal's gone ahead and set her account up already. Take the classification codes that you read through that job reference from OPM, and at the very top of USA Jobs, type them in. 0341, ABCD, whatever that code is. And because Crystal has said, I don't want to leave, I want to work locally, next to it's going to be a location, which you will see. She types in Denver, Colorado. It will automatically populate all the jobs in that series that are available currently for Denver, Colorado. When we go to USA Jobs, you will notice that there are two filters on the right-hand side. One is a top filter, most commonly things that people are looking for, and more filters. Those are a little bit less common. Maybe you want to find a job that offers you a relocation incentive. They pay for you to move. Maybe you want a night job. That would be in the more filters. The top filters are going to be, how much money do you want? What grade do you want to be at? Things of that nature. As you filter, the jobs are obviously going to become less. And that's something you need to be mindful of. You can filter yourself to such a specific level that nothing shows up. So be mindful that you want to make your filters as wide as you are willing to do. Please be mindful of one thing. I'm going to give you a hint. Do not, if you apply for a job and you go all the way through and you really wanted to work at home, or you really didn't want to travel, but you applied for a job where those things were either not available to you, or they were a requirement, you've put a lot of time of a lot of people, yourself and others, into a position you're not going to take. Because I can't, as a hiring official, I can't. And I've had people that were great candidates, and it was a job that required travel, nights and weekends. And they were like, we won't. And I'm like, I can't hire you. This is what we hired for. So please do not think that the USA Jobs application, we can change it later. It is what it is. It has been thought very carefully through, and we are telling you truly what we need, not nice to haves. So going back, the more you filter, the more likely you will be to miss opportunities. But if it is a hard stop for you and you can filter on it to not get those jobs, that's what you need to do. Your search may take longer. You do not have, you can save searches, and please notice the word is plural. You may save as many searches as you'd like, and I recommend you do. What will happen with a saved search is that you're going to get, whenever a new job opportunity that meets the criteria you've set comes onto USA Jobs, you're getting an email. And that's a real handy thing, because as I mentioned, some jobs are pretty competitive and may go very quickly. So you want to know about them right away so you can at least look at them. Searching words and just cruising around. You don't have to put numbers in the search. You can put construction. You can put realty. You can put any word you want in, but you're going to get different results with every different term. You're going to want to really figure out what is it you want to do. And remember, if you're just cruising around hitting words, if you misspell it, you may miss some. If you change the term or make it plural, you may miss jobs. So you've really got to have a consistent plan if that's what you want to do, and not do any kind of save search. You need to have a plan. You need to be looking at the same type of thing every time you go in. And I recommend you have a schedule, because we don't want you to miss opportunities. So you found a prospective job. It looks really fantastic. Now you got to think about what you're going to do. Number one, you need to read the announcement. And I'm going to tell you, as a hiring official, I cannot tell you how many times I sat here and listened and went, they don't have a darn clue what they've applied for. They've looked at the words, but they haven't read the meat of the announcement. And I told them what I needed. I told them what was important. Don't do that to yourself. Along with opening the announcement and reading the entire announcement, make sure you look at the right-hand side. I don't know left from right. I do apologize. Look at the right-hand side and make sure there aren't any specific instructions that you need to be aware of. So for instance, you found a great job. It made your search, but guess what? It's only open to the employees of a building. If you apply and you're not that person, you're going to find that you just went through kind of a bit of a false hope on your application. We don't want you to do that. Secondarily, open your resume. Verify that it says that you can do what the announcement needs you to do. HR will not guess. They are just going to read for keywords, and if your keywords aren't there, you've just eliminated yourself. Additionally, and I did this once recently, make sure that your resume meets the criteria of the layout in the announcement. If it says that you have to have your dates of your jobs, or your dates that you didn't have a job, from month, day, year with 2 digits to month, day, year with 2 digits, put it in, because it will not be evaluated. It's an easy way for our HR screeners to basically kick out applications. Secondarily, write a cover letter. I know we do not like doing it. It's more work, but write that cover letter. It should be a page at the most. Make sure the job announcement information so that it stays with it and people are reading the right one is in the information line. And talk about your fit. Use those keywords that you've seen in the announcement that you made sure are in your resume, and tell them why you could be a great construction supervisor. Maybe you've done it before. Maybe you did it and your jobs actually went faster and you were getting bonuses because you were ahead of schedule. Maybe you saved a lot of money in your construction supervisor. Maybe your people were way happiest crew out there, and your returns and your people leaving were very low. Great place to talk about it because you can personalize that and really talk about your strengths. Finally, review if the announcement asks for other information or if you are eligible to provide that information. If you are a veteran and you have not put your DD 214 in, bad on you. Those are your discharge papers. If it says you can have a combination of job work and education, that doesn't necessarily mean college, but it has to demonstrate that you are educated. If it says the key to you getting this job is showing that you've actually board certified or that you're journeyman certified, make sure you've got that certificate in there. You will have a place at the end of USA Jobs applications to do that. Gather that stuff up in advance. Okay, there's nothing more frustrating than struggling to find this stuff, get it into USA Jobs, and get it onto your application. So you're gonna notice the key theme I'm giving you is be prepared. Spend a little time, because a lot of applicants don't. So this is immediately gonna put you up at a higher potential snagging that interview. Finally, to make an application in USA Jobs again, once you have gathered and titled those attachments we spoke of, your resume, your DD 214, your transcripts, your journeyman's data, your cover letter, you're ready to go. You're going to hit in USA Jobs a big blue apply button. That's what it says. It's on the right-hand side of the open announcement. That apply button is going to take you straight to your, oh, and by the way, one thing, gathering and titling your attachments, put them into USA Jobs as attachments. Just do it. Trust me, it will be faster. Hit the apply button. It's going to take you to whatever agency site you are applying to. You're going to initially, the first time, fill out your information. USA Jobs is going to auto-fill it out for any subsequent application. You will then be sent to a series of questions that are related, first of all, to are you even eligible? It's gonna ask you, read them carefully. Occasionally people get tripped up because they think it means one thing when it was asking the contrary. Most of those are yes, no button answers. After you've completed that, if you are still deemed to be eligible, they will ask you anything between 2, I've seen 1, and up to 35. As a manager, I get a lot of those questions related to your suitability for the job, where you have some choices from I've never done this, I have no idea what it is, all the way to I'm an expert. People come to me to learn how to do that, and I'm awesome. Clearly, the more we can get toward those, what we call 4 and 5 levels, I've taught others, people come to me to learn, those are the candidates that are the strongest. However, 2 things, please don't lie. If you don't know, it's okay, put a 3, put a 2. Sometimes those applications do get through, but it also is teaching you what they're looking for. Secondarily, anything you say, you really need to be able to back up on your resume. So you may find that you start to fill out an app and you go, ooh, I've done that, but I never thought I should put it in. Now you can take a break, go back, possibly rework your resume to get those key topics in and talk about them, and then go back in and finish your application. Okay? When you finish your application, you'll get to the end and it will say, would you like to download these documents? And you'll put them into the right box, do some clicking, and it will say, okay, are you ready to submit? Two things you need to be mindful of. The government does not play around with due date. If it says it's going to be due on this date and you're late, the job is, even if you've started the application, the job will not allow you to complete it. We do not do extensions in USA Jobs. We simply take the job off. If we don't get the people we need, we put the job back on. So be mindful. Give yourself the time you need to be successful. And don't just slap and paste your resume over and over again. Take a little bit of time, make sure you're actively reading, make sure your resume is meeting the questions and is meeting the requirement. Those keywords, again, will get you in or out, regardless of whether you're starting at the bottom or you happen to be a physician and you're starting in a physician. And once you're done, pat yourself on the back, have a beverage of your choice, and know that you worked really hard and that you've actually done some real preparation should you be able to go to the next step, which is getting an interview. Normally, USA Jobs is going to throw you an automated email letting you know that your application was received and it was forwarded to an evaluation. This is not going to indicate you are going to get an interview, and USA Jobs will tell you that. What happens then is that HR's technicians take a look at all of the applications, verify if they've met the criteria, and then rank them and hand them to me as a hiring official. They know that if they give me 85 to 150 interviews and give me 2 weeks to do them, it won't happen. So they do actually create what we call cutoffs so that the hiring officials and the hiring teams at the site actually have a chance to do their jobs and do them well. So I want you to be mindful. A lot of you went through a lot of great training with Dress for Success and other organizations. That training is relevant here. Do not think that if anybody comes and goes, you've got to take a paid course on how to get a job in the government. Don't. There are plenty of books that can walk you through, but falling back on these great tools that you've already gotten will do you a world of good. Also, many jobs in the government have multi-step interview processes. So you may get an interview and then you don't hear anything back and you find out somebody else got it and you went, well, I interviewed. But what may not have happened is you may not have advanced to a secondary interview. Also, many positions / interviews in the federal government use a technique which people are terrified of called panel interviewing. That's where you're hanging out with 3 or 5 of your new best friends for about a half an hour to 50 minutes. Terrifying, absolutely terrifying, but it is something that you can succeed at. And we're going to talk just briefly about a panel interview. And I'm watching the clock and hoping that I put a lot of data in here. So I want to make sure that we try and get through it all. How to survive and thrive in a panel interview. First of all, know that you did really well getting your foot in the door and getting to a panel interview. It means all that prep work you did, all that rewriting and refining of your resume, refining of your cover letter, you did great. And remember, you're trying to get into the government quite often, not exactly trying to get a different job within the government. So pat yourself on the back. Panel interviews can be virtual or in person. When you go into a panel interview, after the lizard in your brain stops screaming, which is about 3 minutes in, I've sort of found, listen to what's going on in that introduction period. They're going to tell you a lot of information. They're going to tell you who they are, what they do, how long the interview is going to be, how many questions you can expect, and any specific things related to how the interview is going to be conducted. If any of you have ever seen this lovely little tool, it is your best friend. I'm using it right now. If you know you're going to have a 30-minute interview and you're going to have 5 questions, set your phone for 30 minutes or set your timer on silent for, 3 to 4 minutes of an answer, because you want to get through the entire interview. Part of the unspoken thing that we at hiring officials are looking for, can you follow directions? Can you manage your time? Not only can you give a good response, but there are some other things happening in that interview. If you do not have a piece of paper, listen to the question. If you aren't sure, figure out a shorthand where you can key points, because many panel interview questions are multi-point in their presentation. Tell me about a time that you had a conflict with a coworker. What did you do to resolve the conflict? How did you work with that coworker in the future, after that? And what did you feel you learned from that? Well, I've just asked you 4 questions in one question. If you're already frightened about being in an interview and all these people, you're probably not going to get all of those questions answered. You want to write them down. Feel free to ask people to repeat them. It's fine. Finally, make sure you're answering all of those 4 little baby questions, and feel free to ask the interviewer if they need information or clarity. Try to finish up your interview with a couple seconds to spare so that you can actually clarify something where your voice went in your head went, oh, I forgot to say. Say, hey, in the second question, I'd just like to clarify this. Or if there's a question you really want to ask, does your organization offer childcare? If that's super important, you want to find out about that now. It's okay that some interviews are going to be practice, where you go, oh, no, this is not a fit for me. Take that interview seriously and practice, because you got the interview, use it for good. And finally, at the end, and this is you making sure that you knew who you were talking to in the introduction, send a note, send an email. Very few people do this old school courtesy, and it will help you to stand out from your competition. So let's go back to Crystal. We've talked about what Crystal is. After working through all of these tools, Crystal used the OPM to find the right fit for her skills, the USA Job Search tool to find jobs in that area, and both of them to actually make her resume searchable online with the right keywords for what she was looking for. So she's got a searchable resume. She figured out by actually doing a search for only Denver, Glendale, or 30 miles or whatever, and a full-time job. She actually made those search criterias. And only the jobs that are coming to her are those that are in Glendale and are 8 to 4:30. Finally, she has started interviewing. And when she interviews, after she finishes, she asks about transit benefits and if the agency has anything related to childcare. She's actually now doing what? Interviewing the interview. That's okay to do. It's okay that maybe it's the wrong fit for you. Finally, professional. She is on track. She's going to find a professional home where she can meet the needs of her family and herself and the needs of the taxpayer. So let's head back. I'm going to try to jump out. I need you to all say a silent Hail Mary. I'm going to pause my share. I'm going to try to, squawk, angry chicken squawk. Give me one moment, ladies. With our good buddies in Teams, we actually have a whole lot more options to, and I'm going to have to jump out of that completely. And I'm going to need to now hopefully jump into USA Jobs. Click, click. There we go. Click. Perfect. We're gonna hang out a little bit at USA Jobs, and now I'm going to screen share again, and you're going to tell me this worked, which would make me a really happy government employee. Did it work?
Yes, it did. Bridget, I have a question
Yes.
for you. We teach our ladies in our classes and in the PWG that if they're interviewing for a job, to really not bring up like the issue of like they have children because of the
Well-
concern of being discriminated.
And that can be certainly an issue. You're not really asking about what you can say. There are two ways to handle if you want to find out if the organization has childcare. Number one is sleuthing, because that you can go into the Department of Transportation in Glendale, and they often will tell you what they have on site. But you are absolutely, especially if you get to the second interview, and you say, look, I'd like to know a little bit about benefits. You're not talking about what you need, you're talking about what you're interested in. And we do that pretty regularly. So this may be a place where the government veers a small amount from the private sector. So if you shouldn't do it in the private sector, don't do it. But if you do reach a point where you're coming very close to a relationship, where you're going to close the deal, that's where the discussion happens. And I will tell you, for instance, when I'm interviewing, I'm at the second interview, I've already had my staff come forward who's done the first interview and really talk about, hey, this is a really strong fit. And in a way, I'm already kind of mentally prepared for those questions as an interviewer. But then again, please remember, if you're in the private sector, you may not want to have that dialogue. But then again, a lot of private sector isn't going to offer what we offer. We're better. That's just me being humble. Remember, our goal is to have a lifetime relationship with you if at all possible, which is more challenging for us now because people do tend to jump from job to job. Great question, though. Any other questions? Because I know we're getting close to 6. None? Okay, I'm going to run through some USA Jobs, and I'm actually going to, because this is a series I'm very familiar with. I spent a lot of time in it. You'll notice that I've got an 0341. I'm going to click on that. There are 78 jobs currently. That's in the world for 0341. I have not declared it down. You're always going to want, if you are not already in the government, open to the public. That knocked it down a bit. And if, for instance, you're a veteran, you have a disability, you're a Native American, and there is actually an area usually here for students, you can actually reduce, but you'll notice you went from 27 to 8. Be mindful. The other area is going to be the, oops, let me get up here. I'm sorry, I have to move it around a little bit. The more filters, which is conveniently covered by my face. You're going to see relocation assistance, telework. Do you want full-time or multiple types of schedules? You want to be permanent, a student, temporary. Temporary is 4 years or less. Okay, you are a full-time employee, but your job does end. Security clearance. So these are things that you probably aren't in most job series going to worry about too much. Top secret is that means you've got to have that clearance coming in the door. Okay. Sensitivity, don't worry about it too much. Most of them are going to be moderate risk. And then travel. Do you want to travel? Do you not want to travel? Everything you will notice will give you more options. many jobs, I'm going to be honest with you, this information, the more filters, is not really going to help you out as you're getting in the door. Unless you're a student, then I would move to more filters. So if you will look at this, let's take this nice little Peace Corps job. Sounds like a fun job. It's Director of Management and Operations. It is a temporary that will not exceed 5 years full time. And these are the people who can actually apply. If you click on the blue, this is where I say read, 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 read. Read it again, because you'll notice it will tell you where it is, what you need to be able to do, what you have to do, the documents you've got to be able to provide, what are your benefits, and how can you apply. After you have read this thing to death and you still believe you've got the right resume, the right stuff, you're going to hit the apply button. And the reality is, and I'm very transparent. Let me see. No, I'm going to sign in with my government ID. So everybody close your eyes. Let's see if it will let me, because that's an older login. Now, because I'm a government employee, I'm signing in, hopefully, knock on wood, with my government credentials. You'll have an account that you have created. And you will notice the first thing it's going to say is, this is the job you're applying for. Here are the steps. Pick a resume. I guess I'm applying for the Peace Corps today. Somebody's going to be surprised when they get this application. So it's going to tell you what documents. Please notice that I have a performance plan because I've been in the government. I have some other things that are very government-y, but you'll notice they're here. Cover letters. And I'm just going to pick a cover letter. And just because I'm a government employee, I don't want it to like stumble me out. And you come down, save and continue. And this is saying, hey, this is all that you're gonna send over to the agency. Are you cool with that? You acknowledge it, save and continue. You guys are getting a PhD in how to apply for a job.
I have a question, Bridget.
Sure.
Okay, so about like 20 years ago.
That's okay. I started 28 years ago. I probably know what you're going to say. Go ahead.
Yeah, okay. So I was looking for a position with the government.
Mhm.
And I had a USA account and everything.
Mhm.
And the way I was told to do the application was like you had to write pages and pages and pages. You no longer have to do that, just a regular resume, what
Yeah.
you would do in the private sector. Would that work?
You're going to need to refine it. You can start with your resume, but as I said, the government will have a couple of weird little requirements, and keywords are a big deal. You're going to want to make sure you're answering the call of the job. What you're talking about is something called KSAs, knowledge, skills, and abilities. And I remember and hated them well. We no longer do KSAs unless you're going to a senior executive service job. Then you've got 20 pages of writing to do. I don't know that anyone of the 19 folks here are quite ready to do that. If you have a bunch of people who are ready to go into political appointee land, let me know. I'll get someone to train you. But no, you do not have those KSAs any longer.
Oh, wonderful.
What you need to do. So in this case, I searched the USA Jobs website. I'm trying to hustle through by 6. I certify that everything's to the best of my ability. I'm throwing all your documents to the agency, in this case, the Peace Corps. And I can tell you that my doctor boss will be shocked when he finds out I've applied to the Peace Corps for 5 years. You're gonna be like, oh, why? I don't understand. Do you hate me? No, sir, I don't hate you. And what you notice is that it's spinning. I understand some of you will need to leave. I'm sorry, this is running a little bit long, but I will gladly help anybody. So I'm in the Peace Corps now in their website. It's updated. I'm going to apply. And here are the questions. Are you currently employed with the Peace Corps? I am a federal employee. I'm going to enter VHA because I'm not really going to apply. What type of appointment? This is again, career, sorry, no. And because you're not going in as a federal employee, there are going to be a whole lot of no's. I'm not reinstating. I'm just going to put 5. And let's just put 6. And you'll notice there are a whole bunch of questions that you have to run through. No. Not applicable. I'm not a guy. Prefer not to answer. I'm just trying to get through. And here you're going to want to do a lot of reading. Do read. A lot of people don't. A lot of people don't. Peace Corps may not have been the best one, guys. Let's see. Okay. Is this what you want to be reviewed for? We'll say yes. I recommend, ladies, that you, whenever you are given options, pick them all. So different grades. Do you want to be this? Do you want to be that? You may find that one grade is not much different. Your goal is to get in to the government, and then you can get a little bit picky as you are in the government and have spent more time. These are the questions. Read them. Please read them. So it's telling you, choose the section which best describes your knowledge, skills, or abilities. Remember that KSA? You're looking at it now. This is what they've moved the KSAs that you used to handwrite to. So, do you possess the experience? What have you done? Now, remember when I mentioned, if you're seeing it on here and you have done it, it should be in your resume as a keyword somewhere. Analyze, expenditure. And what you're going to do in this case is you will notice at the very bottom, I haven't performed any. If you haven't, you haven't. This is a little bit of a different methodology than some other places in that rather than saying I'm really good at it or I've never done it, it separates out. How many employees have you looked at? 1, 2, 10, 20. How many budget expenditures? I do a lot, I do none, I do $1 million. Some agencies opt to do this type of language. Read carefully, answer honestly, assure that your resume and cover letter are taught. And by the way, ladies, if they're talking about this here, this is what's really important. They're giving you that hint. This is important. This is what we need. Talk about it. Okay? They're actually giving you a glimpse into why they're even hiring in the first place. Okay? Now I'm going to be very, very untalented just because I want to get us through. And if you've got a job on Monster or you've got a resume on Monster, some people do actually let you be able to hop off and on Monster and download things from there. But not every agency does. Again, it's asking you, what have you done? I'm going to say I possess it, but I've done nothing. Well, here I better do something because they're just kicking me out and this is wasting my time and yours. And I don't want to do that. Come on. So it's going to ask you a number of questions. In this case, it's kind of useful to know that they need a language. You probably would have, once you read that application, it would say languages are highly preferred as you will be going overseas. And you may go, I don't do French, I don't do Spanish. This job is maybe not the right job for you. You'll know that long before you apply. And you will notice that you're going to go through a lot of questions. While it's painful, read them, read them, read them, read them. It's telling you what they want. It's assuring that you're cleaning all of your stuff up. I wonder if it will let me do this. It probably won't. It's mad. Anyway, I really, it is 6 o'clock. I want to assure that you guys have time, but what you will do is as you answer all of your questions, it will get to documents. You'll notice this button here, and it will allow you to pull your documents and place them in the right bucket. Once you do that, you'll review and submit. And basically at that point, it's in the hands of the government. If the opening date and the closing date have not occurred, closing date, you can pull it back if you wish to add something or revise something. But once the closing date has occurred, you're out of luck. You and your documentation is gone into the pile. I know I've hit you with a lot of things. We did not get an opportunity to take a hard look at OPM. I want to be respectful of your time. Feel free to take a look at it. If you have questions, Gloria can get a hold of me. If you would like me to come back and really hyper focus on something, I'm thrilled to do that for you as well. So any general questions?
Ladies, this is your chance. Unmute yourselves and feel free to ask. No questions?
I think I probably fried their brains. It's a lot of material to go through very quickly, and I do apologize.
Oh, no, it's wonderful. This is great to have the opportunity to.
Now, if somebody did, honestly, let me look at the chat. There are like 14 things. Informative, thank you, thank you. If someone worked previously at a federal job in the census, what should be their answer? Help me out, Sadia.
Yes, I just unmuted. Thank you so much for giving us the opportunity to ask you a question, and it was a very nice time. I'm just asking that last year there was a chance to work with census. That was a temporary position.
Right.
So that's why I'm looking for in the application process, if there is a question pops up, like, did you make any job, or have you ever been with federal government jobs previously? Have you ever done? So what will be our answer? That yes or no, just like that, or will there be specific options?
Did you get a federal paycheck?
Yes.
You worked as a temp for the federal government from this period to this period. And what you're going to want to do on your resume, answer yes, indicate it was a temp job. And in your resume, you're going to want to put census taker, temporary, and what agency it was with. U.S. Department of Census.
Yeah, so it was Department of Commerce, they said, with census at Denver. Yeah, like that. Okay.
So yes, you did work for the government for probably what, 4 months?
Yes.
Yeah.
It was like that. So it was like that.
And that's a great place, by the way, ladies, to get into the door. If you can get some of those temp gigs, because you've got a relationship now with the government, and that will help new jobs be a little easier to compete for, to be honest with you. Chance the computer system may not allow an application for a person under 18. If you go through and apply as a student, an intern, or an extern with a very finite amount of time on that job, that is how we actually do get individuals under the age of 18, but over the age of 16 to work in some of our federal positions.
Oh.
job aid, job corps as well. That's the places that you as an individual under the age of 18 would be looking for a job with the government. Because we want you to go to school. We want you to finish your education.
Oh, thank you.
Thank you, thank you. Like I said, I think we cleared that up. 16 is the bare minimum. 18 for full-time. There are more federal government agencies in Denver than anywhere else out of DC. Not really, but there are a lot. So you definitely are in a great place to be able to start this journey compared to, let's say, I don't know, Jackson, Mississippi, where you can get a job because VA is there. Biloxi, Mississippi, same thing. You can get a job. But there are a lot of really phenomenally cool jobs in the government. I mean, look at the Smithsonian. They taxidermy squirrels. So if you don't think there was ever a job for a taxidermist, wrong, there are. There aren't many of them, but they do exist. Or you can go to Jet Propulsion Labs and figure out how to support and FAA, Federal Aviation Admin, and figure out how to get jets and rockets to be able to use the same airport. There are some really fun, cool things to do. So folks, I'm over time. I think I've gotten your questions. Is there anything else I can help you with tonight?
No, going once, going twice. Are there jobs at museums or hospitals too? I guess
Yes.
that was
Yes.
the question. Under
The
chat.
VA is the second largest employer in the federal government behind Department of Defense. I will shrill for VA because they're my team. Great organization. If there is one downside to them, they're a little bit more difficult to go up the ladder in than other federal agencies. But you can go anywhere in the country. Nurses, nurse techs, radiology techs. If you want to become a nurse and you're an LPN or an NA, nurse assistant, VA will actually pay for you to wind up with a master's in nursing. And there's a lot of money to be made, a lot of flexibility. Jobs in the government that we are always looking for. Just, I'll leave you with a hint. Contracting, procurement, HR. These, so contracting, procurement, HR, IT goes up and down, information technology, computers. Those are kind of the areas that we always, in non-medical and medical agencies, we always struggle to keep people in. People leave a lot because it's a lot of work and there's a lot of regulations. So if you're really looking for an easy way to get into the government, be looking at procurement, be looking at contracting, be looking at human resources, be looking at logistics. Things you don't always need to have a big shiny degree for. Hint, hint.
Do you have time for one more question? I believe. Oh, okay. Fatima?
Yes, thank you. Thank you for the whole thing. It's a lot of information to
It
process.
is.
Thank you. I have a question. What are your chances to become a federal employee if you are not a veteran?
Well, we are committed to our veterans across the federal government. They made a huge sacrifice for us. Their families, often you'll see that there are benefits or jobs that are specifically for families of veterans, spouses, or children. But the reality is that if you're walking in the door with the tools to do the job, and you are not being matched by an equally or more appropriately trained veteran, I think your odds are good if you've done all of the steps well, you've represented yourself well, you've made it very clear that you meet the criteria. I have one of my 10 reports, 2 of them are veterans, 3 of them are veterans. The other 7 are not. So, it really, in a way, it's like any other job. You have to be the best at what you do. You have to represent and package yourself in the best light. And you have to hope nobody's better. You don't know who's coming in the door behind or beside you. I did have an employee I hired once, and she actually pointedly asked me, why did you hire me? And I said, because you were bringing something to the table that I, as the hiring official, knew I needed to improve my organization. Sometimes it's not about you, it's about me. All about me. So don't just walk in and go, well, veterans get all the jobs anyway. I'm not really in a place where I feel I can be competitive. Don't go there. Don't go there. You're doing yourself a disservice, and possibly the agency who may need your skills.
Well, I know we are way over time, and I do want to be respectful, Bridget,
Sure.
of your time. You know, thank you so very much for being with us and giving us some. I learned a lot because, you know, this is not my area of expertise at all. You know, when it comes to, I know the private sector, right? But not the government very well. So I learned a lot as well. Thank you
Good.
so much for doing all of this. And I'm hoping that, ladies, if this is where you want to go, give it a shot. You know, like Bridget said, put your best foot forward out there. It doesn't hurt, right? The
No,
worst
not
we
at
can
all.
get is a no. Right?
And we ladies are used to hearing no, and we're stronger than that. So just step up and do your team proud. Just keep
Absolutely.
at it.
Is there any place that does the federal resumes and they do them one?
You can find a lot of places that will quote unquote do a federal resume, but honestly, most of the applicants I see do their own. They take the time, they do the work, they learn the system, and they go. It is not meant to dissuade people or be rocket science.
And always remember, ladies, that you have at your disposal the ability to book with our career coaches who are willing to help you with your resumes and cover letters. So contact me via email requesting a career coach and I can set you up.
Thank you.
Hey, ladies, it has been lovely. I have loved getting a chance to share my passion with you. I hope that we see a lot of you wearing cool little badges and not knowing how to work computers in the near future. And again, if there's something that's really a burning question, please feel free to give us a yell. Okay.
Wonderful. Thank you so very much, Bridget.
Good evening,
Ladies,
ladies. Be good. Do
We
great
go-
things.
we go forth with confidence, courage, and belief in ourselves. Ladies, have a wonderful night.
Good night,
Thank
everybody.
you.
What? No, you don't want to do.
Good night.